Imagine spending years doing exactly what financial advice tells you to do. You cut unnecessary expenses, build an emergency fund, avoid high-interest debt, and steadily transfer money into savings every month. At first, progress feels visible. Your account balance grows, the deposit fund becomes larger, the goal appears closer. Then something strange happens. The housing market moves faster than your savings account. The amount required for a deposit rises. Monthly mortgage payments increase. The target that once felt achievable begins drifting further away, almost as if the act of saving itself is no longer enough to catch it. For many younger adults in 2025, this experience has become a defining financial reality: housing. Discussions often focus on discipline, spending habits, and budgeting choices, yet these explanations only reveal part of the story. Beneath the surface exists a larger system that quietly shapes affordability. Understanding that system reveals what might be called the homeownership trap, a situation where individuals can make responsible financial decisions and still find themselves struggling to enter the housing market. The trap begins with a simple assumption that most people never question. The assumption is that saving money naturally moves you closer to buying a house. In many situations, this is true. If the price of a home remains relatively stable while your savings increase, every dollar saved represents genuine progress. The challenge appears when house prices rise faster than the rate at which buyers can accumulate savings. Consider a simplified example. Imagine a person saves $10,000 every year toward a future home purchase. If the house they want costs $300,000 and increases in value by only a small amount annually, their savings gradually close the gap. However, if that same property appreciates by $20,000 each year while they save $10,000, they are effectively losing ground despite doing everything correctly. The effort is real, yet the finish line keeps moving. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of modern housing markets. People tend to think of saving as an isolated activity, but saving only has meaning relative to the thing being purchased. A deposit fund growing by 5% annually sounds positive until the required deposit grows by 10%. In that situation, financial discipline remains important, but the mathematics become increasingly difficult. The reason this dynamic feels frustrating is because humans naturally evaluate progress through visible effort. Behavioral economists have long observed that people expect effort and reward to maintain a reasonably predictable relationship. When that relationship weakens, motivation often declines. Someone who exercises regularly expects improved fitness. Someone who studies consistently expects better exam results. Someone who saves responsibly expects greater financial security. Instead, homeownership exists within a system influenced by factors far beyond personal behavior. Interest rates, housing supply, population growth, investor activity, construction costs, zoning policies, and monetary conditions all affect prices. An individual buyer controls only a small portion of the variables involved. Yet psychologically, many people still judge themselves as though they control all of them. This creates an important mental trap. When homeownership feels unattainable, individuals often assume they must be doing something wrong. They search their spending habits for answers. They compare themselves to peers. They wonder whether a different career choice would have changed everything. Sometimes personal decisions do matter, but often the broader economic environment plays a larger role than people realize. One of the strongest forces behind the trap is the transformation of housing from primarily a place to live into a financial asset. Historically, homes have always contained investment value, but in many modern economies they have increasingly become vehicles for wealth preservation and wealth growth. When investors, institutions, existing homeowners, and first-time buyers all compete for the same asset, demand can push prices upward independently of local wage growth. This distinction matters because wages and assets operate according to different rules. Wages depend largely on labor markets, productivity, and employer demand. Asset prices depend on expectations, investment flows, financing conditions, and scarcity. The effect becomes more powerful through compounding. Most people understand compound growth when discussing investments, but the same principle applies to housing prices. Small annual increases accumulate into large differences over time. A property growing at 6% annually doubles in value much faster than many people intuitively expect. Meanwhile, incomes often grow at a slower pace. The result is a widening gap between earnings and ownership. Interest rates add another layer to the story. During periods of low interest rates, borrowing becomes cheaper. Buyers can qualify for larger mortgages, which increases purchasing power. While this may initially make homes feel more accessible, it can also contribute to rising prices because more money enters the market. When rates later increase, affordability faces pressure from a different direction. This creates a difficult environment for first-time buyers. Existing homeowners may benefit from properties purchased years earlier at lower prices or lower borrowing costs. New entrants must navigate both elevated prices and potentially expensive financing. The gap between owners and non-owners can therefore widen over time. The result is a sense of confusion. The traditional advice still sounds reasonable. Save consistently, avoid unnecessary debt, increase income when possible, build long-term financial habits. All of these remain valuable principles,